This is Elizabeth Wettlaufer, an insane nurse who would go down in history as one of Canada's worst serial killers. But when the detective realizes what her motive for taking 5 lives of her patients was, the case would take a twist nobody was ready for. Let's get into it.
Here's 8 families that thought that their family member died peacefully. Part of me had started to believe that it was God with a purpose through my life.
True, for everything in this room is audio and video recorded, first off. You okay with that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I just want to go through, like I said, a couple formalities, cover a few little things off, things that I have to do on my end that I need to do, and things that I just want to tell you and make sure that we're all on the same page before we get going.
Okay.
Okay? So, first off, today is Wednesday, October the 5th, 2016, and on my phone right now, I'll just use that as a time reference. It's 5:14.
Okay.
So 17:14. We'll just use that as the start time of our conversation here today. Again, my name is Nathan Hergott with the Woodstock Police Service. I currently work in our crime unit.
Okay.
And we met a short time ago in downtown Toronto, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So we came to a facility where you've spent the last few weeks, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And we met with Dr. Khan and his team of associates, and I believe you were under his care for the last little while, correct?
Yeah, for the last 3 weeks.
Okay. And the process, how we got here basically is we kind of offered you a ride back, and so we could have this conversation, and you gracefully accepted, and off we went down the 401, or the Gardner, the QW, and the 403, and here we are, right? So just to make it clear for whoever might watch this in the future, we didn't force you to come with us. We didn't, shove you in the car and off we went kind of thing. You did it on your own free will, and you accepted it on your own decision making. Is that correct?
Yep. I had a nap, and you even let me try to give money to the homeless people. So.
There you go. I remember all of that. So I know I read you a few things before, as we were kind of just cruising down Spadina there. And I know you've been read this many times, but it's just things that we need to just reiterate and make sure that you're clear and comfortable with having this conversation today.
Okay.
Okay. Like I said, based on our investigation, there could be some pretty serious criminal charges that result of our investigation. Okay. Yeah. So having said that, if you wish to speak to a lawyer at any time, I don't want you to hesitate. We can make it happen whenever you like. So whether it's now, 5 minutes from now, an hour from now, or 3 days from now, whatever the case may be.
We're not going to be asking questions for 3 days, are we?
I hope not. I hope not. Okay. I'm just saying that any time that you want to speak to a lawyer, that you're kind of in our company, or whatever the case may be, you let us know, and we can make that accommodation for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, because in your position as a Canadian citizen, you're entitled to have free legal advice from a legal aid, duty counsel lawyer, a lawyer of your choice, whoever you like.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And like I said, because there could be some criminal charges that result of our investigation.
Right.
Okay. Also, and I know you've been read this many times before, that you may be charged with many criminal offenses. And you don't have to say anything in answer to the charges that you face. But if you wish to do so, we're going to do that today. But whatever you do say could be used in courts. And I know we had that conversation in the car on the way back to Woodstock. Yeah. And I asked you to repeat it in your own words, and you kind of gave us a few of describing it in your own vocabulary. You said something like, it's not Vegas. What happens in the car on the way back doesn't necessarily stay in the car. Right?
Yeah.
So same thing in this room. Anything that you say and everything that we talked about could be used as evidence at court.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
So kind of, to put it easily, the same rules apply. Okay? And if you've spoken to any other police officers, I know that you've dealt with the Toronto police officers. Yeah. There was a couple officers in the car on our trip back here. If anyone's persuaded you or tried to push you into making a statement, whatever they said, I don't want that to influence you in any way. Okay?
No, what I'm about to say, I'm giving up my own free will.
Okay. All right. And I appreciate that. And we'll get moving forward. For another few things, and I know that we said this in the car, you are not under arrest right now.
Okay.
Okay, I want to make that very clear to you.
Okay.
Okay, you're not under arrest. The door is unlocked, okay? I'm not impeding your way to the door. If you want to leave at any time, if you want to stop talking to me at any time, you just let me know, and we'll just carry on from there.
Okay.
Okay, but you're not being held here against your will. We're not forcing you to speak to us. We just have some follow-up questions from the investigation that kind of got going while you were in Toronto.
Yeah, being interviewed is hard because it takes so long.
It does.
So I'll do my best. Like I said, if I have to get up and pace around a bit or whatever.
If you want to take a break at any time, you let us know. If you want to get up and pace around, I'll just kind of hang tight here, and we'll just keep conversing as long as you're comfortable.
I'll go as long as I can.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And Beth, the reason why we're here today is because we've received some information back at the end of last week with regards to some information that was provided to the Toronto Police Service, which has led us into quite a bit of work, and leads us here today to speak to you with regards to kind of how this all started and follow up. But basically, I've watched your statement that you provided to Toronto. Okay. And we've been provided this document. Is that your handwriting?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it just kind of goes through some people that you've encountered in your career from 2007 through to 2016 of August.
Yeah.
August of 2016. Okay. So that's kind of the focus of our investigation right now is the information that you've put on these 4 pieces of paper.
Yes.
Okay. But before we get into that, I just want to kind of get an idea of your career and where you've been in your career and kind of how you got into things. And
registered nurse. I started from Huron Park Secondary School. I graduated grade 13, went for a year of journalism school.
Okay.
And then went to Bible College, London Baptist Bible College in London. Graduated with a degree in counseling, with a bachelor's degree in counseling. And then discovered that that's wasn't really gonna get me a lot as far as work-wise and career-wise, and so I went back to Huron Park High School for a year, and I took a year of Maths and Sciences, and went on to Conestoga College, and it's in Kitchener, but they have Stratford campus, so I went there for the 3 years.
Okay.
And then when I graduated there, I worked in a place called Geraldton.
Okay.
Which is 16 hours north of Toronto.
I was going to say that's quite a bit north, isn't it?
3 hours north of Thunder Bay.
Yeah, that's ways up there.
Yeah. Worked there, couldn't stand the isolation, moved back. Worked for an organization called Christian Horizons here in town in one of their group homes till 2007. At which time my marriage fell apart in February 2007, and I met a woman online, and she decided to move to be with me.
Okay.
So I ended up quitting the job I was at and going to Correctional Care to make a little bit more money because I was ill and settled.
Okay. And how long did you work there for?
Until 2014. Yeah, till I think it was March 2014.
And were you always in the same role, or did you do different roles at Correctional Care?
I was a registered nurse.
Yeah.
And registered nurse's role is always the same.
Yeah.
But I worked in different areas of the home.
Okay.
There's 5 wings to Correctional Care, so I worked in different areas.
Right. Okay. All throughout the 7 or so years that you were there?
Yes.
Okay. And at that point, did you have different supervisors from unit to unit, or
no, there was
the same person, or?
There was one supervisor, Helen Crombie, she was the head nurse.
Okay.
And then there was people under her, Shelley, Jeanette, I I don't remember the rest of them. Then there was like an administrative head. And I think for most of that time it was Brenda.
Right. Okay. And then from Crest Care, I know you've had a few other...
Yeah, I went from Crescent Care, fired from Crescent Care.
Okay.
For a medication error.
Yeah.
Then from there I went to Meadow Park Nursing Home.
Okay.
And left there to get help with an addiction issue.
Okay.
Hoping that it would get help with that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I came back, I started working again in January. I left Meadow Park in September of 2014, and I started working for a nursing agency called Lifeguard in 2015, and I worked with them for over a year, and then in July 2016, I started working for St. Elizabeth Healthcare.
Okay.
As well, I was still working for Lifeguard.
Oh, okay. And how did that work? Did you just split your time between the two, or was it just kind of a part-time position at both organizations?
St. Elizabeth was my priority.
Okay.
So, and Lifeguard is very much, you pick up the shifts as they come. There's very few scheduled shifts, so
Gotcha.
I could say yes and no to them and focus on St. Elizabeth.
And were those roles where you would do like in-home care with different clients?
With Lifeguard, it's an agency, so you go into nursing homes, you go into people's homes, you go into like retirement homes. We did a lot of different things, a lot of one-on-ones with people, like in their own homes, 12-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts, sitting with them.
Okay.
A lot of stuff I did was sitting with palliative patients.
Right. Okay. That would be tough.
It was okay.
Yeah.
Like, because I knew they were going to die.
Yeah.
And it was just an opportunity to give the family a rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
Yeah, it's an important role. I mean, a lot of people wouldn't see it that way and wouldn't even notice the care that these people are giving from people like yourself, right? So to give the families a bit of a break and take that role is important, which a lot of people don't see, right?
Because when someone's dying in the house, families don't want everyone to be asleep at once, right? And that can be very hard if you're not able to do that.
That's right.
But if you have a nurse there that says, no, it's okay, I've got the hydromorph.
Okay. All right.
Hydromorph.
Okay. And how much were you using?
I was a binge user, so I would use what I could get a hold of by stealing it from the patient. Okay.
All right. And how would that work? Would it just be in their allotted medications, or would you have access to a card to feed your addiction?
There's some of their allotted medications. Some of them had confusion, so they couldn't tell the difference between what pills you were giving them, so I'd give them a laxative instead of their hydromorph. Okay. There was a lot of them had as needed, so it would be in a big card, and then they'd say, I would just punch out that, oh, Barney needed 2 of those today, and oh, Billy needed 3 of those today when they really didn't. Okay. And that's how I would get a hold of it. Okay. Every once in a while, there was also a big holder, like a safe almost, that we would put the drugs in. Okay. Once, like if somebody died, and there were like 23 hydromorph left, would slide the whole card into the holder. Well, if you picked it up and turned it upside down and shook it, you'd get drugs back out of it. Okay. So you had your ways? Yes. Yeah. Okay. And was that ever an issue with Stadler? Were you ever confronted, or did that go totally undetected for the time you were there? There was a time when hydromorph was delivered to the home, and it didn't get put away right away by the person who should have. And so I took the hydromorph and put it in my bag and took it home, and it wasn't discovered for months. Okay. And so I just played. If you were using, but like how long did the addiction last for? Oh, the addiction lasted from, I think it started in 2008. Okay. So so to 2014, at which time I went away and got treatment at a treatment center.
Okay.
But then I started using again, probably January 2016, I started using again.
Okay. And are you still using when you get your hands on them, or?
No,
No.
no. I'm going to stop using alcohol as well. I have friends in AA, and I've got a very clear plan. If I'm able to be out and about,
Right.
I have a very clear plan. And I also know if I'm not able to be out and about, that AA and Narcotics Anonymous do have some programs where they come into prison.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
that's my plan.
Well, that's good that you have a plan. What do you think the reason is that you slipped into the addiction back in 2008? Like, what is it just the stresses of the job that you were facing, or dealing with
just
your personal life as well? And
just always feeling like I had to be the best possible person, and very, very stressful job, giving medications to 32 people, making sure treatments were done on 32 people,
Right.
charting for 32 people, supervising 4 PSWs who sometimes didn't always get along, and sometimes didn't always get along with me. It's a hard job. Any nurse will say it's a hard job.
I believe it 100%.
And then they would add different things like, oh, you have to do this and that to say who's here, and counting the medications at the end of the shift, and it was a hard job.
And
I always was putting this pressure on myself to be a really good nurse and to do everything perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, when I could get a hold of the hydromarkers.
Position as a RN, is that
Yes,
correct?
it was.
Okay. And you said you resigned from there?
Yeah.
Okay. What brought you to that?
That's where things get a little crazy.
Okay.
This is part that I haven't told the doctors. Because it seems so stupid now. When my ex and I broke up in 2007, I was already taking the medication for my borderline personality disorder. And I was so angry. And it was like a voice said inside me, I'll use you, don't worry about it. And the different times that I have caused people's deaths or caused them discomfort through the insulin, I believe it was the influence of that voice or whatever it was. It wasn't a voice in my head, it was a voice in here. And when I would do it, afterwards I would hear like a laughter in my chest. So, started working for St. Elizabeth, and I was doing well, but it was a lot of pressure. And the way that, that I've helped people to die has been through insulin. And after my 30-day evaluation, my supervisor came to me and said, I'm really sorry. We wanted you for Woodstock, but we have so many kids in schools in Ingersoll that need help with their insulin pumps that you're going to start working in Ingersoll.
Okay.
And I panicked. I didn't want to do that. Because I felt, what if? So I came back, and I was going to tell my parents what was going on, but they had visitors from Scotland. So I didn't tell them. I just, spent 2 weeks pretending to go to work.
Okay.
While the visitors from Scotland were here.
Right.
It's funny, but it's not funny. And then, once they left, I decided I didn't want to nurse anymore. I didn't want to hurt anybody anymore. So I also quit my other job. And then I decided, whatever Friday that was, that, I did a lot of looking into how I could get help, because I realized I needed help with whatever this was.
Right.
Because part of me had started to believe that it was the devil, and part of me thought it might be God as a purpose through my life. And I know the doctor asked me those questions, and I didn't answer them because I was so ashamed. But I just, I didn't want just to keep going on. So I quit both jobs. Looked into where I could get help. Dr. Fernando is my psychiatrist, and he's not a very nice man. So I went on an online support group and was talking to people on there, and they were saying, you know, get some help. So then I started researching some psych boards and stuff, and I saw CAMH, and they are the only mental health facility in Ontario that has an emergency department.
Okay.
So I made a decision, and I went there one Friday morning. I took the train, and off I went. And before I went, I told 3 people what was going on. My friend from AA.
The way that you're conducting yourself and telling us and having this conversation with me, I thank you for that. And I'm not here to judge in any way.
I know.
So I want you to know that. And I'm not a doctor. I know you spent a lot of time at CAMH the last 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And I'm far from a doctor, but I do appreciate you telling me the truth and telling me the way that these things happened and played out.
Yeah.
And I admire you for that.
And it's, you know, it's been a while because I've been stewing about, like, do I give the names of the people that I killed?
Right.
Because then here's 8 families that thought that their family member died peacefully and normally, and they didn't. And what's that going to do to those families?
Right.
And even up to going to the hospital, I decided I was just going to give the first names. And my cousin said, listen, they know what years you worked there. If you don't tell them the exact names, they're going to go in there and go over every single file. And that's going to be even worse for the families there. And they said they promised me they wouldn't tell anyone.
Okay.
But basically the impliance was if I didn't get help, then they'd be on the phone the next day.
Okay, I got you. So did you tell them basically then on
I told them
Thursday?
I told them the night before I went.
Okay, so Thursday night?
Yeah.
And then you took off Friday morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's basically what they said was, you know, if you haven't gotten help Friday, then we're calling the police. We love you, but we're calling the police.
Okay. Well, they just probably felt that they had an obligation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a moral obligation or however they saw it, right?
Yeah.
What medications are you on right now?
I'm taking fluvoxamine. It's called Luvox, 200 milligrams. It's anti-obsessional and an antidepressant.
Okay.
I'm taking 300 milligrams of Seroquel, which is an antipsychotic, and they upped that when I was at CAMH.
Okay.
Which has really helped clear my thinking.
Has it? Good.
And then I'm taking a couple of blood pressure medications, and then I've got some loxapine for when I get really agitated.
Okay. And when we left the hospital, you had taken, I believe, some Ativan, is that right?
I took 2 milligrams of Ativan when we left the hospital.
Right.
Which was, you guys noted the time, 1:30 or something like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I've had nothing since.
Okay. And I know that the Dr. Khan provided with a prescription that...
Yeah, and he also gave me 2 loxapines.
Yeah.
And was very strict. I am not to take them until all the interviews are over, because they will start to interfere with my thinking.
Okay.
And then let me see the interview.
Yeah, exactly. And do you feel that you have a clear, sound mind right now?
Yes, I do.
Conversing with me in this room?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
And everything that you're telling me is the truth and the best that you can remember?
Yes. Yeah.
I can appreciate where you're coming from as far as the work that you went through. Obviously, I've never been a nurse, and I've never worked in the profession that you did, but I could imagine how overwhelming it is.
Yeah.
Having a lot of responsibility, maybe not having the support of the administration or your supervisors, you know, just kind of go out and get it done, right?
Yeah.
And that could be, I can see how that would be stressful, and I can see how that would drive you maybe into your addiction and into other things. But I want to just go over this document, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Okay, would you be willing to do that with me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and you do your thing.
Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Absolutely not.
This is pretty, excuse me, major. I've only ever had parking tickets. I've never been arrested for anything.
Well, like I said, you're not under arrest
Oh, I
right
know.
now, but it is a very significant investigation, you're right.
I understand.
And like I said before, Beth, I do appreciate you speaking with us, and I can imagine that, does it feel like a weight off your shoulders?
Yes. Yes,
You've been
it does.
carrying a burden for quite some time.
And I've tried to get help a couple of times.
Yeah. You know, well, sometimes it takes a few attempts to finally commit to it, right?
Yeah, I had a pastor that I told, and he prayed over me and told me I'd be fine. And that was God's grace.